Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season premiere of DC's Legends of Tomorrow. A great season premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, I love that we're literally picking up hours after the season 5 finale, because it's like all that went down like last night, and so Rory's the one on the ship. All these punk rockers are passed out and everything. He finds Ava on top, face in a toilet, and it's just like, I love that for whatever weird reason we don't talk about it. Mick is kind of just like, I mean, to be fair, he's always the one that's kind of out and about doing his own thing. Like, he was kind of responsible this episode. It's like, where were you? It's like, oh, I was dropping my daughter off back home. It's like, oh, you were a good dad. And it's like, well, have you seen Sarah? And it's like, nope. And so they go proceeding looking for Sarah and stuff like that. And so we end up finding everybody. We find Constantine and Zari. And that whole thing is kind of like, oh, it's just kind of like a casual thing, because I got my soul back and everything, and it's just kind of, he's happy for the first time in a long time, because everything's kind of going his way, and it's like, oh, and then Ava's kind of like, it's like, oh, like, don't take me almost like dry heaving as it's like a natural reaction. Don't take it necessarily because of you two getting together. I mean, I'm happy for you and everything. And Mick's like, we're gonna have to burn this entire room. And so then we find Astra off, scamming people and playing cards, making money. Then it's like, oh, we run into Barad, who's talking to, like, what are those guys known as? Like, the guards in England? I think they're just like, don't they just guard Buckingham Palace, or they scatter throughout London? But whatever, like, fact is, like, Bayrod's like kicking off being like, yeah, I know, dude, like, oh, we're kind of like kindred spirits and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, like, Nate, he went off with, like, and then, like, Starman, and Ava's like, Starman is, and it's like, Ziggy Stardust, it's like, Bowie, he's off with David Bowie, and it's like, what? And he's lamenting to David Bowie about, like, yeah, like, Zari, but it's like, yeah, we're from the future. Oh, she's from the future. Yeah, but she's also, like, from a different timeline, and it's like, I miss her. And it's like, oh, hi, Zari, so also having to wipe Bowie's memory after, like, he had given them the video being like, oh yeah, like, because he was singing a song, and at first he was like, Nate's like, no, it's not about Sarah, it's about my situation with Zari, which is like, yeah, sorry about that. I mean, he's like, 1.0 Zari, and she's like, obviously, which is like, oh, that's going to still be a complicated mess this season. It's like, oh, that's going to be awkward, especially every time you see John and her together. It's just going to be a reminder of, like, right, my Zari's locked away in the totem, and so that's always going to be like a depressing thing, knowing that. It was like, once again, Nate's love life never works out. This might be the most complicated it's ever been over the course of the show. Like, the Zari relationship, this is the most complicated one it's been, just because of that. The Amaya thing, complicated in its own right, but this is more complicated because it's like a version of your girlfriend is standing in front of you. You just, like, she's not the version of her that you fell in love with. And where the version of the girlfriend that you love is. She exists in a total, it's a whole thing. Plus, you see this other version of your girlfriend from an alternate timeline with someone that, it's, like I said, whole thing. So everyone's reunited, and it's like, okay, where's Sarah? Wait, we find out. For one, Sarah's going to propose to Ava. You're like, what? Oh my God. I don't think that was brought up in the season 5 finale, but it's like, oh my God, that's so awesome. And it's like, but then she gets abducted by aliens. And then you have Mick being like, this is all your fault because you guys were off partying. And it's so interesting. It's like, right, Mick is kind of acting like the responsible parent here. I guess it's like in the hierarchy, like, even though Ava's taken over, like, he is like, he's got seniority amongst everyone because he is the next senior member after Sarah to an extent. But it was just interesting. It's like, I mean, to be fair, Mick is always just kind of like out and about doing his thing. Like, he's very dead serious a lot of time. He's got like almost like that deadpan aspect to him. Not really deadpan, but you get what I'm trying to say. So Ava comes back after everyone's worried about her, and it's like, yep, I got my plan, and it's just like, it's like she's marking off what everyone's going to do. Like, Astra is like, yeah, we're going to need some outside help, and Astra's like, and just like, she checked off at one mark being like, figure out what, who Astra is, and like, like her part to play in all this, and like, oh, Barad, he's going to go off and get high and like get some crazy idea, or Nick, he's going to go drink until he comes up with an idea, And she was just like checking off the list of like, oh no, that's so crazy. And it's just like literally knowing exactly what everyone's going to do. As she says later on, sending everyone off so they can focus on doing like what's necessary. So then, you know, with John and everything, obviously, like, he tries to use his magic to track down Sarah, but he can't because it's like, well, this isn't just magic. If this is demon ghost, sure, that's my business. We're dealing with aliens. And so it's like, hey, who do we turn to? You know, it's like, you know, Ava's like, oh, let's turn to the DEO. It's like, yeah, the DEO was destroyed by Rubicon in 2020. I was like, for one, thank you for giving me the answer because I completely forgot. I was literally asking in the most recent episode of Supergirl. I was like, whatever happened to DEO? Because I was talking about that, like, it hadn't even been brought up or referenced, but I completely forgot that happened. I was like, once again, that's my fault for not, like, rewatching the previous season 5, but I was like, I was so caught off guard by being like, yeah, like, we haven't touched on the DEO at all, and it's like, but I also love that Nate brings up the whole Alex thing, which I didn't think about it because I recently referenced Maggie during the reviews, and right, like, and when I was referencing Maggie, it clicked in my head because I had actually forgotten, like, right, Sarah and Alex had a one-night stand during Crisis on Infinite Earths, in particular the first episode. So I was like, right, not Infinite Earth, Crisis on Earth X, literally the first part of it. So I was like, right, because he was like, oh, you're not going to be weird going to ask Alex for help. It's like, nah, it's kind of in the past, and whatever. Ava just kind of moves on past that. I was like, oh yeah, that's interesting. But it's like, oh, well, they were plan A, so we got to be, well, you know, Nate's like, nah, we're the Legends. You leading the charge, we're going to be plan B, you know, and it's just like, you know, because Nate's also trying to get her to open up. It's like, right, you haven't really talked about the fact is that Sarah proposed and everything. But for Ava, it's like, during something like this, Ava's always a person like, we got to put our emotions aside. We got to be professional, which is like, once again, it's like, we're dealing with the Legends. There's never going to be any professionalism with it. But it's the thing of she wants the Legends. Nate's saying, like, you know, kind of let your emotions out. It's okay. Like, obviously, because he's the one that's always been the most in touch with his emotions, considering everything he's kind of dealing with the whole Zari thing. But, circling back to the whole Barad came up with the idea while getting high. He found out about, hey, there's this girl Esperanza Cruz who was abducted by aliens. It's like, it's a tabloid and stuff, but it's like, hey, there's like a thing in her head, so it's like maybe we can find a way to communicate. So it's like, all right, take Mick with you. So there you go. Mick is also super pessimistic because he was also like, yeah, nothing's going to work. There's no point because we don't work without Sarah. And I was like, oh, that's actually a little sweet that he believes that, because he's also like, but also it's like, maybe for him it's just very factual. It's like, yeah, we need Sarah. She's the leader. She makes this completely disorganized machine into a somewhat well-oiled machine to a certain extent. But, yeah, an interesting aspect to this whole thing is Astra, obviously, like, you had, Zari kind of saying, like, oh, you must have some connection. So, learning about someone from hell known as Aleister Crowley, which I was like, wait, what? Because if you haven't seen Pennyworth, there's an Aleister Crowley in that. So I'm assuming it's the same character from the comic book. We're just dealing with two different versions of the character. I would assume, considering that we have two different DC properties referencing the similar character. Like I said, I'm sure it's just like different versions. I think it's interesting because it's like, oh, we were just in London 1977, but like Pennyworth takes place in like the late 60s. Not the same thing, but it's like, yeah, Crowley, like, he's a liar and whatnot, and I locked him away here on Earth because basically he talked about like having magic to communicate with aliens, and we find out, like, wait, not only is there like Earth-based magic, which I guess it makes sense, there's alien magic too. Okay, this is crazy, this is wild. Because I also love the Legends being like, what do we know about aliens? It's like, well, of course you wouldn't know anything about aliens because the people you want to talk to about aliens is like, well, they're dealing with their own thing right now. But it's like, it'd be, well, to be fair, depending on where this continuity necessarily takes place, let's not forget, Kara's literally stuck in the Phantom Zone right now. But to be fair, this probably doesn't fully line up with where it is, considering like the season 5 finale. Like, once again, we don't know where like every show lines up timeline wise. We don't know, like, maybe this is not maybe this is still stuck, timeline wise with season 5 of Supergirl. You just don't know how things kind of line up. But Yeah, because you have no one else. Because, like, no one else up there. Because, once again, you also remember, this is post-crisis. So, like, maybe, just maybe, you know, it's like, I'm sure Heroes versus Aliens still happened in this continuity. But it's also the thing of, like, you don't know how much has changed. But, that still probably happened. But it's like, yeah, that was, like, one set of aliens you were familiar with. You had, like, you guys did battle with. So, it's a little different. Some of this squad wasn't even there during that. Well, it's hard to say. Well, Rayrod. Wait, I'm trying to think. Was Zari? No, Zari wasn't a. No, Zari was around during Heroes. No, I'm thinking of Crisis on Earth X is when she was around, because that was around season 3. Yeah. So yeah, she wasn't around during the Aliens, but like neither. So Bayrod wouldn't have been either. So it's just interesting to think about. But regardless, they go looking for Alistair's book, and it's like, John's like, where's Gary? And it's like, oh, Gary's up to some shenanigans. And they find like a chrysalis there, and it's like, wait, what? And then we go back to like the ship. Like Sarah managed to escape. She runs into, she ends up releasing Spartacus. And I love that whole thing of like, she's fighting, and he's like, oh no, like, the fact of the matter is I was conserving my strength, waiting for the enemy to wear out. If they had killed you, I would have avenged you. And then she was like, being an Avenger sucks. I was like, yes, you DC nerd, shut up. You shut up. I was like, I love it that you make that joke. You didn't even have to. She's like, we're here to like prevent death. We're here to be preventers. But I'm like, I had to rewind it because I'm that nerd that likes inside jokes. It's not, it's like, oh, it's like, ha ha ha, but it's just like, I love it because it's such a like, oh, look at you poking a bear talking about Avengers suck, look at you. Especially when we live in a continuity where their Justice League exists in this continuity, so it makes it even more of a poke, in my opinion. It's just meant to be a little fun joke, but I just thought that was so interesting. But I love that she kind of like lays Spartacus down, because also it's like, oh yeah, he's like, there's people in these pods. It's like, wait, she's like, you're just realizing that? And he's like, yes. And it's like, oh, you're a bit of a idiot. Well, you're from the time you're from and everything. But ends up releasing an alien. Sarah ends up knocking it out and sealing it back up. Then she runs. Like, obviously, it's like, wait, we got to sneak up on him. I was an assassin. We got to attack from the shadows. He's like, no, we got to avenge. She's like, no avenging. I said no avenging. And then he immediately gets stabbed through the stomach by the alien and gets devoured. And it's like, wow, you poor, poor bastard. Then we get the other alien by itself. And then we get the best reveal of the episode. Gary's a fucking alien. Gary's been an alien the entire time. It's like, of course. Of course. What? Dude, this changes everything. Immediately, my mom was like, whoa. Is this a crisis thing? I was like, nah. I think we're just saying straight up, Gary's been an alien since the beginning. I'm like, what? This is amazing. It changes everything about Gary while also changing absolutely nothing. I was like, dude, this is the best reveal. I love it. Because I also love they found out about it, because it's like, okay, Zari puts on the glasses and turns into Gary. And it's like, oh my God. And it's like, yep. Dude, this is amazing. For him, it's like, oh, I was supposed to kind of like abduct like the greatest human or whatever. It's like, oh, Spartacus? He was like, what? No, you, Sarah. And it's like, but for him, it's like, he felt like, obviously, it's like, my boss, Kayla, found out about you, so it's like, I tried to like help, and it's like, I love you guys. I fell in love with you, Ava, all humans, and it's like, she ate, Spartacus was, her, Kayla's lunch, but it's like, I don't eat humans anymore. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. It's like, dude, like I said, it changes everything that Gary's been an alien the entire time. This is what, I don't know if the extended trailer, because I only saw like the 40-second trailer, I don't know if like the 2-minute extended trailer covered this. If it did, I'm so glad I didn't watch it. This is such an amazing reveal to get in a premiere, that Gary's been an alien the entire time. That's fantastic. I'm reading too much into it, but it almost feels like a Skrull situation from Marvel, that it's like, oh yeah, like they introduced the Skrulls in Captain Marvel, and now it's like that's becoming more and more of a thing, to the point, like obviously we're getting Secret Invasion as a TV show on Disney Plus, but it's like, it just makes me feel like that. We're like, oh my God, there's been aliens probably hidden amongst us. Well, to be fair, we already knew there were aliens hidden among us Because of Supergirl. That's obviously even more complicated and different considering, like, oh yeah, like that was on Earth 38. We're dealing with this Earth now. There might not, well, we haven't really dealt with that too much of seeing like the more alien population too. I don't know if that, I mean, it came up last season, but I don't think they focused on it too much last season. It's there to a certain extent. Obviously, we haven't really tackled it at all this season, but just something interesting to think about. But regardless, Barad and Mick trying to find Esperanza, or as she goes by Spooner now. That is just kind of like, it's like, yeah, like, Barad's like, oh, you gotta look for the signs in the universe, and then, like, Mick is, like, being super pessimistic. It's like, oh, the universe is just trying to find a way to kill you. So they break into her place, and everything. They ultimately end up getting captured. She thinks they're aliens, especially when she pulls out their comms, and at least Bayrod's comms, and ends up, like, I love the whole thing of, like, wait, who's he talking to? He's schizophrenic, It's like, oh yeah, I talk to myself sometimes. It's kind of a thing, but it's like she was like getting like the back feed of like communications for them, so everything they were doing, she was hearing. So ultimately, they had to. I love the whole thing of like she pulls out that laser, and I love Nate being like, she's that versus the Wave Rider, and it literally punches a small hole through the Wave Rider, and like Ava had to be like, yo, I'm here to get like the woman I love, and it's like, but it's like you're claiming me to be a time traveler. It's like, well, also this is also a spaceship, but that's kind of beside the point. It's like, don't worry, like but it's like Spooner's like, oh, that's what an alien would say, so they knock her out and kind of take her aboard the ship. I also love Mick being like, can we burn this down now? Because also for him, it's like, why, if she's like hiding from aliens, why would she pick such a redneck spot? He's like, what's all of this redneck stuff? So it's like, obviously we're setting up the circumstances. Like, all right, you help us find Sarah because of the implant inside of you. We can use that to track her, and then afterwards Gideon can have it removed from you. So we have magic. We're getting it, baby. I mean, to be fair, we've been getting it before, but the whole like combination of science fiction and fantasy / supernatural, because it's like, oh, here's magic versus meets aliens. So John was able to kind of track down Gary's signal because of Spooner after she had to drink his chrysalis, being like, oh, it's Tangy, and everyone else being like, oh my god, I can't believe you actually drunk that. That's wild. And so find out about Gary. Kayla ended up locking Sarah up, but Ava like pops astral projects and like, Sarah, yes. It's like, yes, what? Yes, I'll marry you now. You better make sure you get back here. And it's like, yeah. So that ends up going down. This would be also interesting. Like, obviously, sadly, she's not on the show anymore, but it's like, this would have been an interesting experience with Charlie. But nevertheless, Zari ended up saving John because the spell was kind of killing him, but obviously she did it out of concern. It's like, oh, it's definitely more than just a fling on her part, too, because it's like, yeah, she likes him, too. They're just probably going to keep it super casual, but who knows if them getting serious or keeping it super casual, whether that's going to be worse for Nate or not. I'm sure it's going to suck all around. But I also love when the time came and it's like, oh, let's get inside of Spooner's head to remove it, but it seems like there's no device. So, like, the question is, like, I guess it's kind of implying like there's something more there. Like, even Gideon be like, oh, if you want me to, I can cut her open to see if there's something there we missed. And it's like, wait, what? No, that would kill her. Like, I don't want you to do that, Gideon. But I'm wondering, like, that's kind of implying like there is no like chip inside of her head, like no device. Like, maybe they like altered something in her. Like, either maybe they like fused her with alien DNA or something. But like maybe that's going to be an element to this. We kind of learn more about. Like, there's definitely something going on there. There's also the element of Sarah fighting Kayla round 2 and everything after breaking out, and ended up seeing Kayla flying. And I love that it's like, and she ended up attacking her with a whole bunch of like pods, and I'm like, and now we found out how all those aliens got scattered across time. It's like Sarah's fault. It's like, once again, literally everything that's ever happened, every issue in the show is literally a byproduct of the Legends. Like, no, like, once again, they even made the whole point in season, was it 5, being like, yes, for the first time, nothing is our fault. That was kind of like the whole point, and it's like, yeah, this is kind of on Sarah. Even at the end, Ava being like, honestly, aliens being in a temporal portal, and it's got, yeah, we're going to clean up this mess. But you know what that means? Sarah's alive because only Sarah could create this much of a mess and chaos. It's like, I'm like, yeah, and now aliens are just running amok. I wonder if they're gonna probably not. They're not gonna have like we're not gonna have encores or mysteries. It's just gonna be aliens. But still, I'm ready for the shenanigans regardless. But I was like, I wish they kind of had like a neat name like Encores and Mysteries, dude. Also, like, because it was Ray that came up with those names anyway, right? So, no Ray, so it kind of makes sense at the same time, but still. Everyone else is kind of figuring things out where it's like you had Constantine being like, oh yeah, like everything between him and Zari is a fling, but like you had Astra be like, she's literally got you on a cleanse, and John realized that, and he immediately pours liquor in him, like, no, this is supposed to be a fling, like I can't be like falling for it, this can't become like a thing. It's like, no, it's obviously becoming a thing. But Astra's like, yeah, I got to get off the Wave Rider. I'm going to stay here with you for a while because, like, I want to live a normal life. Also, don't want to get dragged into any of those legend shenanigans. Oh, you want to get dragged into them. You really super are Astra. There's no escaping it. Some shape or form, you're going to get dragged into it. But it's like, for her, it's like, I'm just going to, try to live, like, a normal life. And for one, we're living in a DC universe. Can't have that much of a normal life. But hey, yeah, Jack's leaving to kind of have a normal life. So we never found out like more about that. But you can just assume like, hey, he was living a normal life and he's continuing to live a normal life. Maybe he's still out there kind of doing some badass stuff on his own. But we don't know. But regardless, we also got to reveal that Kayla, the alien that got kicked out, which obviously she's somewhere out there in the temporal space. That's Gary's fiance. And it's like, wait, what? He's like, oh, did I not mention it? It's like, no, you didn't mention that was your fiance. He's like, yeah, I'm sure the wedding's off now. I'm like, dude, what's going on? I'm sure this is going to be a thing of also like dragging in like Gary's species and stuff like that. It's like, oh, we're going to go through the world. We're going to make it. Oh, we didn't make it. And it seems like it's them crash coursing on a planet, which also is going to be interesting because not only are we going to be doing time travel, we're going to be doing some space travel too. Hells yeah. It's like, dude, this season already, dude. I'm so excited to have this show back. I love me some Legends of Tomorrow. I'm always so excited, dude. This is getting me just as pumped as like the beginning of last season too. I was so excited to have Legends back, dude. Shenanigans up the wazoo. I'm so excited to see how things play out. There is some information about this season I know about, at least in certain regards, going forward. I won't say anything until they actually come up. Like it's nothing too new. Like it's like casting news. If you're aware of what I'm talking about, I just don't want to bring it up until it comes up in the show, and I'll be like, oh, and this is what I was talking about. But there was some casting news about this season, so we'll talk about when it gets there. But I'm still, I'm just going to enjoy the ride until we get to that point. Like I said, if you know what I'm talking about without me going into it, because I just rather not talk about it in its entirety. Because until we get to that point, I won't talk. I'll talk about it at that point. I said that the most confusing way possible. I'm sorry, but I'm so excited to see what this season has in store for us. Like I said, I saw the 40-second trailer, so I watched it like once, so that's all I need. I cannot wait to be unveiling like this. Once again, just the shenanigans we get into, because no one does shenanigans better than the Legends of Tomorrow. So it's going to be interesting to see the misadventures and everything. And, I guess like Sarah and Gary are just going to be off on their own misadventures for a while until they reconnect with the Legends. Like how long that's going to be, how long that's going to take, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, light to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.